This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Hindu.
Good evening and welcome to the news tonight. I'm Sanjay Pinto. Just imagine, there are people who loot the country of crores and crores of rupees, and many of them manage to go scot-free. But a poor, hapless 13-year-old boy from a slum area attempts to steal a fruit, and what does he get? A bullet in the head. Well, the army has reacted, but not quite. In fact, it is revealed less than what it actually hides. So all that and more in a very short while from now with a special panel here. Colonel Hariharan, former head of military intelligence of the IPKF, very senior army officer, retired army officer here. Also with us, Nagasaila, a leading human rights advocate, member of the PUCL. To answer all those questions, we also asked the army to actually depute a spokesperson, but they said that they were not going to do that just yet. But in fact, we know that the army has called for a press conference tomorrow. We'll wait and see what exactly they have to say. We will ask all the tough questions on the show. We'll be a voice for the voiceless on this particular bulletin. But first, it's over to Ashmit for all the headlines. Ashmit?
That's right, Sanjay. Let's take a look at the top stories at this hour. A day after his murder, no leads yet on who killed Dilshan. A tearful farewell as the teen was laid to rest. After calls for a CBCID probe into the Dilshan killing case, CBCID's DGP R. Sekhar tells NDTV Hindu the agency has begun investigations.
Come to Crime Branch CID, our offices and with our local offices, we are investigating the case.
Political opinions swell seeking justice for young Dilshan. PMK says death penalty for those found guilty. TD Dogra, the head of forensics with AIIMS, lands in Chennai, is expected to submit a final report on cause of death for Sadiq Pasha. Jayalalitha's freebies plan sails full steam ahead. This time its bus passes handed out to 27 lakh students. And our very own hockey hitter stunned even the German greats, making us wonder what it will take to give the sport the ultimate launchpad.
Indian players are by themselves the better player than Germany. They can all very skillful, very good players.
Dhanush star Vengai is set to roar. Will director Hari provide the bang for the buck at the box office? Well, time now to take a look at stories coming in from across the nation. 11 Congress MPs resigned over the Telangana issue. Their resignations are yet to be accepted. Unhappy with the slow probe, the Supreme Court converts the government's high-powered Black Money Committee to a special investigation team. A ruling JDU leader's son is dragged and beaten by the police in Patna for allegedly eve-teasing. Another alleged rape in Uttar Pradesh, a woman reportedly gang-raped by 4 men in Raebareli. Well, right on to the top story. A murder that is fast featuring in public memory as a bullet for a mango murder. Even as the army passes the buck, giving itself a clean shit via a press statement, and even as the kin of the victim bid him a tearful farewell, there is a lot that needs to be answered. Take a look at this developing story.
A futile death that's left 13-year-old Dilshan's family bewildered and shattered. The young boy was killed by a bullet while picking almonds with his friends inside this army residential complex. Like every Sunday, Dilshan was out playing cricket with friends when they decided to sneak in, as most children do. He did not know he would pay with his life. Dilshan was the key earning member of his family of 5 and had dropped out of school to help his diabetic father in his job as a carpenter. Even a day after Dilshan was shot dead, there's no word yet from the army on who killed him. Chief Minister Jayalalitha has transferred the case to the state CBCID. She says this is unacceptable and has asked the army to hand over the culprit to the state police.
The case has come to Crime Branch CID, our offices and with our local offices, we are investigating the case. Any details, definitely we'll let you know. Thank you.
The army maintains there was no armed guard located at the compound at any time, and that it's in close cooperation with the local police authorities to identify the culprit. Forensic experts say Dilshan was shot from a 20-foot range. They are now studying the bullet to trace its origin. Meanwhile, the police wait for the crucial post-mortem report that may hold out stronger evidence. In Chennai with camera person Sukumar, Sam Daniel, Findy TV.
Well, in the latest by the army, they have said in High Court that full cooperation is being given to the local police in the joint investigation. The army will take all measures to reach to the bottom of the case and take stern action against anyone found guilty. The police have been interrogating two boys separately. All assistance will be provided to the investigating agency. Well, political reactions have been quick to come out. PMK's Chief Ramados has said in a statement, and he said that the army personnel who shot at Dilshan should be given a death penalty. He has urged the state government to get an additional 5 lakh rupees from the army's kitty as compensation for the kin of the victim. Well, for more on this developing story and to ask the big question, it's over to our executive editor now, Sanjay Pinto.
Thank you very much, Ashmit. Is the army in fact hiding more than it's revealing? We've got Colonel Hariharan, former head of military intelligence of the IPKF, very senior retired army officer, and Nagasaila, who is a human rights advocate, also from the PUCL. So, would you defend your alma mater in a sense in this case? Because I would like to reiterate and repeat a question, a very relevant poser by Chief Minister Jayalalitha. She said, didn't the army differentiate between a poor unarmed boy and a terrorist?
Firstly, two things I want to clarify. I am not a spokesperson of
Not a spokesperson, since the spokesperson did not come, and it's always important to have a retired army officer.
I have sufficient experience in army where similar instances have been reported. So from that experience I can speak. Secondly, I personally feel any death in normal circumstances in this type of areas is totally unacceptable. I am sure army also will not accept it.
So the army, in fact, there was a brigadier who went on record on the day of the crime to say that there were no armed guards there, the guards were outsourced, and that they had only lathis. Now, if this is a restricted area, how did somebody then go get access to this area? Assuming somebody else shot the boy, how did they then go within 20 meters and shoot from a powerful weapon?
It is worth investigating because this raises some issues which need to be clarified by army because it is within army area. And but one thing is,
but no, what do you say? What do you feel, sir? No armed guards present in a restricted area?
No, normally they don't keep armed guards except to protect, because a lot of civilians come there.
Is it possible that some officer themselves could have fired from inside, sir, in that case, because a powerful weapon is used? Again, what this boy is not even like a crime journalist like Day in Bombay.
Normally,
what would be the motive to kill a boy like this, that too with a weapon, sir?
I fully agree with you, but normally officers don't keep weapons at home.
Okay.
Because of the risk of losing a weapon is much more dangerous than the actual threat to you.
All right.
And there is a very real chance of losing the weapon because it's a very highly valuable thing.
Saila, do you get the feeling as a human rights lawyer that the army is trying to hush up things here?
Definitely. I think from the word go, that is the impression that all of us here are getting based on media reports and as well as whatever the police officials are speaking about this. And they are slow in terms of being accountable for what has happened and not coming forth in respect of trying to clear the air. And if there is a mistake on their part, I think it's their duty to come clean on it.
Is that a sort of a tendency, sir, sometimes for the army to defend its own, in a sense, its own flock?
Yeah, it's not a question of protecting the own flock. After all, before you accuse somebody, you have to find out who is the guy. That is the process. It will take 24 hours.
So you're saying
army has got its own
to
bureaucracy and especially for this task, for this kind of thing. And army has to follow the process of law. So of course, if the guy had been caught red-handed, it would have been a totally a different story. But here, there will be they would find out whether anybody was officially on duty, unofficially somebody was there, who was carrying the weapon. A number of issues are involved, and the officers from different units though they are living in the same area. So they would be, it would be a unfortunately it has to be a bureaucratic process.
But again here, sir, the facts are so, I mean, in fact, they stare us in the face. I mean, the weapon that was used was so powerful that it pierced through the boy's skull, fired from a range of about 15 to 20 meters. That's what the postmortem initial report suggests. It hit it came through the boy's skull, hit the compound wall, and then fell on the ground, the projectile.
Yeah. But why don't you wait 24 hours? Army is holding a court of inquiry. I am sure they will finish it in double time.
Okay. Saila, now, do you believe that sometimes a criminal trial, a regular civil trial would inspire greater confidence and would be more transparent, at least from a victim's family's point of view? Now, of course, the case has been handed over to the CBCID. Ms. Jayalalitha has written, the Chief Secretary has written to the army authorities to hand over the accused person to the local police for interrogation and to investigate the case. As a lawyer, as somebody who specializes in criminal law, what do you make of this? Do you buy this argument that no armed guard was present there?
No, first I would like to clarify the point that as far as this act is concerned, a case of homicide, there is no ambiguity in law that it has to be the regular police which has to investigate. And under the Army Act, the provision is very clear that except during operations against the enemy, all acts of homicide and murder and rape have to be handed over to the civilian police, and it is the regular criminal court which conducts the trial. And there is no doubt that it is a civilian trial will definitely give us more confidence in what the entire issue is going to be taken forward.
So, given your rich experience in the army at leadership level, the standard operating procedure, correct me if I am wrong, I mean, as a civilian I am asking you this question, is that you first warn the person, you ask the person to surrender if there is any intruder, and only then you fire upon the person, and that too because you fire to disarm initially and not to kill. In this case, by the looks of it, the boy is so puny, 13-year-old boy, looking half starved, going to climb like most children do, sneak into somebody's compound, climbs a tree to pluck a fruit. What could have been really a security threat from an army point of view?
I don't think there was any security threat.
To warrant firing?
If somebody has fired that, he must be in a state of rage or something.
Okay.
You know, like a traffic violation, when somebody is trying to overtake you, bash up the other chap or crash into him, something like that. I don't see, and I fully agree with Mrs. Suresh that generally army will hand over this murder case, this kind of thing, unless we are in a remote area where one Jawan opens fire and kills the another Jawan, where it may not be possible. The normal murder cases would be handed over to the civilian authority.
So what you are saying in this case is possible. I mean, it's not right to jump to conclusions, but it's possible that somebody who was in a slightly disturbed state of mind could have actually committed this crime, sir, from within that army setup there?
I didn't say army setup.
No, somebody else to have a weapon?
Yeah.
To have a weapon and what is the motive to fire upon
I fully agree. The army guys have access to weapon. I think we will leave it at that. And secondly, one point I want to say, I don't think I have enough confidence if I am to be tried in a civil court. From the way the courts have been dishing out judgments, particularly with respect to firearms cases.
To an army trial for a poor,
I would any day welcome.
They will have no access to proceedings.
No.
The transparency is greater in a civil court.
Sanjay, you are mistaken. In J&K, it has been made transparent. Now, court martials in cases of rape, murder, they are taking, media has full access, public have full access. Of course, there will be protection for that in J&K.
So, why do you think the army, when we give them an opportunity to come here, we want to be fair on the channel, to be balanced. The army has issued a clarification, which is hardly anything. It doesn't say anything, doesn't explain, it doesn't sort of seek to dispel any doubts created in the minds of average viewers or average readers, the common people. You invite them on shows, they don't come. But you have a defense PRO will call you to come for some publicity stunt that the forces keep doing. But when it comes to real issues and to actually defend themselves on shows like this, they don't come, which is why we have to call retired officers who give us their own perspective and their own expertise. Why is it the army doesn't want to come clean and answer the tough questions, sir?
It's not a tough question. The army will not, army is a creature of the government. You ask any government official to come and discuss government policy.
Police officers come.
No. Police officers are they're coming and discussing the crimes or the policy. So they come. Army has got much more, it is under additional enactments, you know.
Right, Saila, I want
to come in on what Mr. Hariharan was mentioning, that first I think we have to realize that Army is not above the law. And the law very clearly says that it is the civilian courts which have the jurisdiction to try offences like this. So there is no dispute, no argument, there is no ambiguity about this fact that they are subject to the law of this land and they are subject to the regular criminal courts. And it's not court-martial which is contemplated in such a scenario.
And again, the place here also was not a border area or something. It's a residential area. It is not even a sterile zone. It may be restricted, but it's not a sterile zone.
There is no dispute about that.
And I think it is really an act of lawlessness. And this is an incident in which the army officials within the compound have access to information, have access to knowledge which we don't have as outsiders. And I think in this case, they are not coming clean on it.
Do you get that feeling, sir? I mean, because this is what overwhelmingly the public seem to believe, that here's a poor family, they are slum dwellers, this little boy has gone there, and the army officials, even going by the body language of the officer who spoke to the media the other day, didn't really he merely wanted to make a statement and not answer any questions really. Questions that the press would like to ask on behalf of these helpless. We are the voice for these people.
It is not only helpless, life has been lost, you know, that's a very important aspect. But there are what you call structural constraints. I can understand the officer's problems. So I suppose I think we'll have to take army will have to take a relook at it, how it interacts with public in this kind of situation.
Just a couple of questions before we end this discussion, Saila. Again, like when you look at Colonel Hariharan's extensive, experience when it comes to Sri Lanka, like when even in Sri Lankan Navy, they fire when they see any approaching boat, just to be sure that they are not suicide boats, they fire from a distance. Similarly, in this case, the sight of some people atop a tree, do you think it could have aroused some sort of suspicion, which is why the person fired, just to probably initially to scare them away, and that went horribly wrong?
See, firstly, I think in the fact circumstances, we have to bear in mind two things. One, that the person involved is a child. And even the law, of course, though he doesn't come under the legal immunity, he's a 13-year-old.
And he looked very much, in fact, he looked less than 13.
So in fact, on the face of it, one would assume that he's even below 12. So I think that is a very important factor before a person reacts. I mean, if it was an adult, probably the reaction would have been different. But when you know it is a child, then I think it's an excessive reaction. And secondly, at best, even assuming if it's an adult, it would have been an act of criminal trespass, for which the maximum sentence is 3 months and 500 rupees fine.
In fact, given the knowledge, the limited awareness that the boy's father has, he said that they could have beaten him up. Why kill him?
Correct. So, I mean, it doesn't warrant a death penalty. This is really, imposing death penalty for an act of criminal trespass and actually being a child.
Taking law into your own hands. Yes, taking law into your own hands.
It is an act of lawlessness. I think it is a clear act of lawlessness and an increasing lack of accountability in our systems, whether it is the police or whether it is the army. Over the years, I think our country has tolerated acts of lawlessness, and now we are seeing it coming into our own.
And also, I think Ms. Jayalalitha should be complimented for actually, speaking her mind and saying that this is unacceptable and asking the army to hand over the allegedly accused person to the police. Final comment from you, sir. I mean, going by your rich experience, what do you make of this, sir, given the facts of the case that we have now?
As I mentioned to you, I have absolute confidence in Army's justice process. I have handed over in a lesser offence where the guy has not died, and most of them would do the right thing. And
do you believe the army should at this stage come clean and
just give a moment. Sure. A court of inquiry, we take it seriously. It is not a cover-up, because army is very particular that if somebody has opened fire like that, it's a breach of discipline. Forget about other things.
But the army at the outset itself, without even doing that court of inquiry, saying none of us fired.
No. That is what you call might be a knee-jerk response. But there is a court of inquiry. But you can be rest assured that they would definitely find the guy. So I won't simply dismiss it as one of those cover-ups.
Not yet.
In case of army, I won't do that. I have investigated custodial killings by armed personnel. Especially I myself have investigated and collected evidence, given action taken. So we won't take it casually.
All right. Thank you very much, Colonel Hariharan, for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, because you speak your mind Final word from you. How do you think this case should go ahead? Now the CBCID has taken over the investigation. Can the investigation progress? Can we get to the root of this crime without cooperation from the army? If the army actually sort of doesn't budge, doesn't really reveal what really happened because they have access to the whole place, can the real truth be brought out?
No, I think this is a case where the cooperation of the army is essential if the case has to make any progress, because one has to identify the firearm from which.
And cooperation is not merely saying that we will cooperate.
Yes, it means actually disclosing, because they are in a position to identify, one, the firearm from which the shot was made, then secondly, who owns the firearm. I think these two are very crucial links to identify the person who actually shot. So and that is a knowledge which is within the exclusive domain of the army. And unless they completely cooperate wholeheartedly with an intention to bringing the person to book, however high or low he may be, this case will not make any progress.
Right. Thank you very much, Saila. Thank you, Colonel Hariharan, for joining us. Well, time to slip into a short break on the news tonight, but Ashwat will be back with more news. Stay tuned.